Hey everybody, welcome to this week's edition of Things You Didn't Know. No, I'm just joking. This is a preview on Newton, and I'm going to share my screen over here. That's reported in my face. And I guess the first thing is, acknowledging there's this thing called Newton, and it's worth points. And so if we scroll down in the table here, we can see it's worth 20% of your grade. It's a fairly significant part of your grade. In fact, um, as a section, it's second place, tied to second for milestones. I think of the milestones of the final project as kind of working together as like 55% of your grade. So it's the biggest part of everything else. Newton. Okay, so how can you get there? Well, I like to go to content and then go down to the bottom to the Newton coursework. Oh, this might be hidden from you. Maybe the best way to do it is just go to any module, go to any activities and assignments, and then you can see a Newton link here. Now, keep in mind, there's not a Newton link in every one of these pages because there's not a Newton assignment every week. I think specifically the ones where there's milestones, there's no Newton. So then I clicked there and then I got into here. This is kind of my view of it, not yours, but I can see when it's available, when it's due. So this one, you've got this 2 days left before this first assignment is due. I can see a bunch of people haven't started it. Some people have completed it. Some people are in progress. One person's struggling. I'm going to switch over to the student preview and kind of talk about what's happening here. So you get a question and there's a way to get instruction here. So that's nice. Keep in mind that you also have asynchronous resources in this activities and assignments page. If I click on the module 1 resources, it takes me to a module page, module resources page, which has every module, every folder. So this is kind of nice because it may have, a video, some reading, so some asynchronous materials for you to look at if you're feeling stuck. So anyways, I'm back here. I'm trying to do this problem. It's purchased for 1.2 million. It's revalued at 995,000. I want to find the percent decrease. So in other words, it went from 1.2 million down. And one of the things I'm not sure about is whether that, I would normally say that that would end up as a negative, but it is asking about the percent decrease directly. So I'm not sure whether that's part of it or not. Maybe that's why I need to go to more instructions here. The instruction, okay. So percent, right? Absolute relative change, final minus initial, taking the absolute value of that. So we're going to take where we ended up minus where we started, but it says absolute value. So that makes me think that it's not worried about the sign. Oh, this got some examples, 7,400 to 6,800. Oh, this is good because it's a decrease. In my situation, it's a decrease too. So 600 is the absolute change. And again, you would get negative 600 if you take the starting value from the ending value, but it's got that in absolute value brackets, which means we just take the positive number and then divide it by where we started. So 600 over 7,400. So, all right. So I feel like I got this. Continue. All right. Person's income increase 27,000 to 40,000. And personally, what I would do is just get over here into Excel. That's what we've been doing this whole time. And I'm going to do my math in Excel. And I could say, let me kind of shrink this a little bit. 27,000 to 40,000. So equals 40,000 minus 27,000. There is a way to write absolute value in. So I wanted to do that with Excel. I could say ABS. And then it doesn't make any difference in this one because it actually went up. So how much did it go up? 13,000 divided by where it started, which was 27,000. I got this number. I can have Excel formatted as a percent, round to the nearest percent. Excel's already done that for me. I'll punch in 48 here, see what happens. Hallelujah. All right. Continue. So now we're back to doing more of this. So it's got, one of the things that's nice about Newton is it's potentially got the more instruction built right into it. You've got those asynchronous resources. I mean, this is really what your lab class is for in some ways, is to get a lot of this work done and be in a place where other students are, and you've got your learning specialist, you've got your lab instructor, which for some of you is me. So this is the concept here. Don't just throw, random answers at this, because there's something about Newton where it's like responding to what you're getting wrong and giving you new questions to try to help you. So definitely better to try to make sure you feel confident about the answer before you submit it. What else do I have? There were some, and I said this in the announcement a little earlier. This is probably not a good one to use. Let's just go back to module 2. And I'm gonna go to options, preview as a student. So I think there were some, periodically compounded. So one of the things that I said in the announcement is when we do stuff in class, and I'm going to try to kind of change my approach so we do more closer to the in-class submission, but we may not finish everything you need in order to do the Newton for that week, and that's okay because there's all of this embedded support here on how to do it. I want to focus on the most important things to help you be successful and have a good experience. Not worry about making sure we cover every single type of question that you might see in Newton. $200, 18% compounded monthly. What's the total amount of money needed to pay it back in 1 year? So this is a little bit of a fakey question, and I'm not entirely clear about the compounding because it kind of sounds like you're compounding it at 18% per month. But I imagine that if this is a realistic question, this is actually an APR. And so what needs to happen, let's go back to Excel and let's increase this a little bit. So I know that my principal is 200. My interest rate is 18%. And I'm going to assume, and so then I need to do 1 year. All right. So if this was compound annually, then it would just be, and again, assuming this 18% is annually, it would just be 200 times 1.18. Remember the multiplier process, start at 100%, add 18%, you get 118%. So this would be the answer. But it's not. It only compounds once. This is compound annually. And we're going to hit this in week 3 hard, but basically things generally in the banking world don't compound annually. They compound more frequently, and that's to the advantage of the people who lend you the money. So what we do is we take the principal, we multiply by the multiplier, but the multiplier is more complicated. What I do is I take 1 plus 0.18 divided by 12, and then I raise it to the 12th power. So what I'm saying here is take my 18%, divide it into 12 equal parts because it's doing this once a month. Then my multiplier is whatever this number with this calculation in the parentheses is, because that's the first thing I calculate in PEMDAS. I'm raising it to the 12th power because I compound 12 times. Why 12 times? Because it compounds monthly, and there's 12 months in a year. So then I do this basic same approach. Take the equal sign off here. The general approach is exactly what we said in class, which is you take the principal, you multiply by the multiplier, and you raise that to the time. This is the general approach of the compound formula, and we talked about where that came from with the repeated multiplication. Where it gets complicated is the multiplier is not as simple as doing 100% plus 18% because I'm actually doing it every month. So that's why I divide the 18% into 12 parts. This 1 plus 0.18, I'm just talking in decimal form. It would be the same if I said 200 times 100% plus 18% divided by 12 to the 12th power. This and this are exactly the same thing. All right, let me press enter so you can see the difference. So it's not that big of a difference, but you can see if this was it compounding once, this is compounding 12 times. And that is kind of the point. That is, this is $3.12 more. The principal wasn't very much, so the loan wasn't that big of a deal. But the bank is earning more money if they compound it monthly, and that's what they want to do. So I'm going to put the 239.12 in there, and we'll see what happens. Do not round into your calculated final answer. Okay, 239.12. And I'll explain that do not round comment. Yeah. Okay, so this is a little confusing, but I would say going forward in any Knewton question, any question in our class, when we say percentages, we mean annual percentage rates, which means that if it's compound some different way, it needs to be split up. The annual rate needs to be, modified proportionally to be, and you've got this sort of fancy formula here. Let me show you what they mean about do not round until you have the final answer. And again, Excel really helps us do that well. But if I did this kind of piecemeal, like let's find the multiplier. Well, it's 100% plus 18% divided by 12. And that's 101.5%. Oh, that's not a big deal here because it actually turned out to be a perfectly exact number. So then in this case, I can take my 101.5% and raise it to the 12th power. That's 119, 120%. But notice that if I took the 120%, this is rounding in the middle, then I would be increasing my 200 by 20%, and that ends up being 240. Now, if I had just used a cell reference here, it would have got me back to this answer. Equals this times 200 should still get me back to the same 239.12, and it does. So there are some places where it could get really, the difference can be really exaggerated. Like when I do this and it doesn't divide evenly. There's a bunch of decimals and there's some rounding, and then I do a pretty short rounding, and then there's a big exponent, and then all of a sudden it's a wildly different answer. I could show you that if you're interested, but for now I think that's enough on Knewton and approaching these problems. It takes time, so don't leave it to the last minute. If you don't do a Knewton assignment, it's not the end of the world. Again, 20% of your grade, but keep in mind that there's 8 assignments, so each one Knewton assignment I think works out to about 2.5% of your grade. So do the best you can. If you're stuck, get some help. That sometimes that takes time, so don't wait till the last minute to get help. That's part of just being a good student and being engaged and reflective. All right, see y'all.